Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Japan and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years. They are still a relatively new addition to the Japanese beer scene, but they have built up a very, very good reputation for themselves. If people were asking me about this brewery, I would say that they're best known for their different kinds of IPAs, notably the New England hazy varieties, but they have been diversifying a little bit in recent times and doing a lot of different styles, and those have been pretty good in my experience as well. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't tried from these guys before, but one they've been getting a lot of praise for in recent times, and it's also going to be the very first Japanese brewed example of this style that I'm trying, if memory serves me correctly. We had many of these back in Europe, of course, but it's cool to see that Japan is starting to have a go at these now. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to a little place called Hokuto City, Hokuto-shi, which you'll find in Yamanashi Prefecture out to the west of Tokyo, and that place happens to be home to the wonderful Uchu Brewing. So the beer we're going to have a look at from them today is called Geisha. It comes in at 4.5% ABV, and this one is a smoothie sour ale, and it contains blueberry, blackberry, strawberry, raspberry, and agave syrup as well. So yeah, this should be quite interesting actually. My very first smoothie sour from Uchu Brewing, and I've heard they do some really good beers in this category these days, and it's also my very first Japanese brewed smoothie sour as well, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, let's crack on then and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Uchu Brewing before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future because I am over here in Osaka quite often. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated. Remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to very regularly because I do make it over here to Japan to visit my son very regularly. And yeah, do check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very, very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Uchu Brewing once again. So, Uchu Brewing, as I've told you before, were founded back in 2017 by Masahiro Kusanose and Rumiko Suzuki. So these guys both came from a background in agriculture, and they first encountered craft beer on the US West Coast, and they found that they really loved the different personalities that each brewery had, and they wanted to bring some of this American beer culture back with them to Japan. So Masahiro was originally the main brewer, and Rumiko was doing the marketing and business side of things, and she was taking part in the brewing side of the company as well, and of course they do a bit of farming too. So these guys actually started their farming activities back in 2009 under the name Space Farmers. Uchu, of course, translates into English as space, so yeah, it's space brewing. But they were growing rice and vegetables and other things without pesticides, organic farming essentially. But then in 2016 they planted hops, and so they have their own hop fields right next to the brewery, and they often hand pick the hops that go into their beers. So today they run miso making and rice paddy workshops in addition to their brewing activities, and they say that they want to kind of just promote local produce, and that's what many small companies in Japan want to do. So they raised over 3 million yen through crowdfunding And they used this to build their own brewery in Hokuto in Yamanashi Prefecture, and much of the construction of the original place is DIY. So they sold their first beers in 2018, and then they expanded the brewery in 2021 with a second round of crowdfunding, this time raising over 17 million yen. The following year in 2022, they raised a further 12 million yen, and they used this to open their first tap room, which is called Roadside Station Kabuchisawa, and you'll find this about 15 kilometers away from the brewery. But over the next few years, they apparently plan to open up a new brewery, and they're working to produce some barrel-aged beers at the moment as well. And as of July 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 245 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. Like I said to you earlier, I would say that these guys are best known for their different kinds of IPAs, notably the hazy IPAs, but we've had some good West Coasters and black IPAs from them before, but they have been diversifying a lot in recent times and doing some more imperial stouts and smoothie sour beers. Actually, I've seen quite a few smoothie sour beers coming out of Uchu Brewing, in fact. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Uchu Brewing for the moment. The only other thing to mention would be, like I said earlier, the name Uchu Brewing translates into English as space brewing. So yeah, many of their beers are named after constellations and astronomical objects and things like this. But yeah, that is it for your history section of the video for Uchu Brewing. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So yeah, you can see the artwork on this one is pretty straightforward. The can is sweating a little bit because it's very warm here during the summer in Osaka, but yeah, you can see nice shiny colour on this one. Geisha, of course, after the legendary Japanese women, and you can see the Uchu Brewing symbol down there as well. Plain silver top on the can there, and it tells you a little bit about the beer on the side here. But when I looked at the concept on this one, this was a little bit different from what we usually get from the IPAs, because the IPAs tend to have little poems and things on them, but yeah, this one wasn't quite like that. So yeah, as I said earlier, 4.5% ABV, this one, which is a little bit lower than a number of smoothie sour ales. Usually they're about 5.5%, 6% actually, but this one contains blueberry, blackberry, strawberry, raspberry, along with a little bit of agave syrup. And agave is it's quite an interesting looking plant, but it's known as they use its oil and stuff like that as a sweetener. Apparently it's worse for you than sugar, so yeah, this should be quite interesting. A very sweet beer, I'm sure. But let's get it out into the glass then and see what it's all about. Quite exciting to try my first Japanese smoothie sour, so let's do this. Oh, that looks good. Oh, that very suddenly got quite dark actually. There we go. Damn. I'm just going to say straight away, I was wondering about this one because it was only 4.5%, but that's definitely, I've got a feeling that this is probably going to be the thickest 4.5% smoothie sour that I'll ever come across. Just look at that. That is insane. So yeah, you can see, look at the carbonation on this one just kind of going up to the surface there. Look at that. That is crazy. So yeah, you can see the Mino monkey just coming out on the glass there, but look at that. That's just crazy. But yeah, you can see the head on this one is maybe about a finger. It's maybe just about 2 fingers of frothy kind of dark burgundy fluff there. You can see the little particles of all the different berries and stuff in this one, and you can see that the colour of the beer itself is like this lovely dark burgundy type note. Heart of Midlothian football shirt, I would say. I've used that descriptor on the channel many times before. You know, reminds me of the Hearts football jersey for those of you who are not into your Scottish football. But yeah, you can see there are 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass there, a few little ones just slowly moving up towards the surface of the liquid there, but it's a very, very viscous liquid, this one. So for those of you who don't know, the smoothie sour ales tend to contain a lot of oats, quite often wheat, and quite a lot of times they've got lactose in them as well. Back in Sweden, of course, we had a very good selection of smoothie sour ales from Elma Living in Malmö, Fermenterarna, a few other breweries, of course, were doing some really, really nice beers in this category. So it's a style that's getting very, very popular at the moment. But Uchu are the first brewery in Japan that I've really heard of doing this style more widely. I do actually have a bottle of another smoothie sour ale from a brewery, I believe, that are from Hokkaido. So other breweries in Japan are trying this, but Uchu, of course, are starting to get out there a bit more, so we hear about this first. But in all, the colour of this beer looks really, really nice. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But when it comes to smoothie sour beers, a lot of your colour is due to the different fruits and things that you use. So to have a sort of burgundy Heart of Midlothian football shirt colour out of this one isn't overly surprising, to be honest with you. But I don't think we really need to say much more about the appearance of this one. The only other thing we can add is that the head has decided to be a little bit more kind of soapy at the moment, which is quite interesting. So let's have a little look at the nose of this one then and see what it's all about. I'm very, very curious to see what this is like. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is good. It very much reminds me of the duck ponds, the Fermenteranas, the Elma Livens from back in Sweden. It's pretty damn good actually. I often find with these kind of smoothie sour beers, they're very often quite simple beers in terms of their flavour profiles and aromas and stuff like this. But if they're done well, they're just beautiful to drink. There's still stuff wanting to come out of the can here. But the aromas in these beers and the flavour profiles are just great. If the beer's done well, they can be awesome. But this one is kind of giving you everything that you'd expect. It's got that lovely big sort of creamy backbone to it, the big juicy fruits. You really can't ask for much more. So let's just break that aroma down then and try and describe it a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. So the backbone of the beer, you've got a very slight little touch of like a fresh white bready bread crust in there. There are little woody elements to it, there are little crackery elements, and some white bready character as well. But for the most part, the aroma from the malty side of things is more to do with it's more like a kind of yogurt, like a sort of petit filou, fromage free type thing. I'm not sure how good a descriptor that is for people that are watching, but at least that's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of these kind of munch bunch yogurts that my mum used to put in my lunchbox when I was a wee boy going to school. But that's what it that really is what it kind of reminds me of. So the backbone of this beer really is very kind of yogurty, like a petit filou, fromage free type thing, Mueller yogurts, whatever you want to compare them to. There's a little bit of like Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotch in this one. Just a very slight touch of sweetness. But you do get a little bit of almost kind of vanilla character out of the beer as well. This one is only 4.5% ABV. These smoothie sours can go up to 7-8% in some cases. I think I've had like 10% imperial smoothie sours before, and those are quite interesting. But you can get the big thick juicy mouthfeel out of these beers at lower ABVs as well. So for me, the aroma of this one is big, and it's certainly up there with what I had from the Swedish breweries before. And the Swedish breweries are very highly regarded worldwide when it comes to this particular style. So that's a good sign so far. For me, On top of that, I don't know if there's really anything else to say about the malt base. At the back of the nose, you do get a little bit of yeasty character, and I'd say it's like quite sweet and quite white bready. Maybe a little touch of a sweeter brown bread in there as well. But yeah, all in all, the aroma that comes out of this one, I think, is absolutely lovely. So when it comes to smoothie sours, one of the kind of technical things to think about is whether the beers are hopped or not, and there was no indication that this one was. So when it comes to the old school Belgian sour beers, you know, the Flanders Reds, the Lambics and stuff like this, what they used to do with those beers was use older hops with lower alpha acid content, because a lot of the bitterness of those hops would have dissipated by the time the hops were a little bit older. They didn't want the bitterness of the hop to distract from the sourness of the beer. So if you let the hops sit for a little bit, they'll lose a little bit of that alpha acid potency, and so they won't be taken away from that sour side of the beer. But adding the hop in will of course give you that little bit of more complex flavour to your beer. So when it comes to modern sour beer breweries, some breweries that are doing smoothie sours like this don't like to add hops into the beer because they say that the fruity adjuncts suppress the green component anyway. But a number of breweries do like to add hops into the beer because they think it adds more complex flavour. It just depends on what approach you want to do with your brewing. As I said, there was no indicator that this particular beer uses hops. So yeah, I think this one is going to be mainly just the fruity character will be coming from the adjuncts in this one. But yeah, with these beers, you do often in the aroma get a little bit of a kind of green component, placebo almost, and there is a little bit of that in this one, but not too much. I'm picking up little bits of more kind of grassy character, a sort of bramble wood sort of thing coming out of it as well. But yeah, the aroma of this one on that side, the green component, if you like, that green placebo, isn't too prominent in this one. As I say, just a little bit of grassness, maybe a very slight floral character, and then some woody notes in there. But the fruity side of this one is exactly as you would expect. So for me, I'd say the blackberry and the blackberry and the raspberry in this one are the two fruits that are coming out at the top of the nose. So they're giving you that little bit more kind of pungency to your aroma. But the blueberries and the strawberries are giving you more. The blueberries and the strawberries are giving you a little bit more of the kind of juiciness from the fruity side of the beer. So in all, I think it's very, very well rounded in that way. You know, you can smell all of these 4 different fruits in there. I'm not 100% sure what exactly the agave syrup is adding into the beer, and I'm not sure that there's any particular aroma that I can kind of attribute that to be honest with you. Maybe a little touch of the kind of brown sugary note that you're getting out of the beer, but yeah, in all, this one really just delivers on what you'd expect. I mean, there's maybe a little bit of a kind of plummy or figgy type character in there as well, but yeah, in all, the aroma is very, very nice in this one, and pretty much what you would expect from a smoothie sour ale. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the aroma section. It probably is about time that we taste this beer then and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Geisha, a 4.5% smoothie sour ale with blackberry, blueberry, strawberry and raspberry and agave syrup from Uchu Brewing in Hokuto, Yamanashi Prefecture here in Japan. My very first Japanese smoothie sour. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers, kanpai. That is good. Yeah. You can see some of the kind of fruit pulp or whatever. Fruit particles just sticking to the side of the glass with this beer. But that's lovely. That's very, very good. I'd be curious to try a yellow fruit sour from these guys as well. You know, something with mango, pineapple and stuff like that in it. That would be really interesting. Because yeah, with smoothie sours, I think yeah, you've got the yellow and the red ones, and of course there are a few others out there. But yeah, this is very, very good. So big thumbs up to Uchu Brewing. It's certainly on par, at least, with what we've had from Elm 11, Duck Pond, Fermenterna, and the Swedish brewers. The Swedish smoothie sours are very, very good in my experience. Yeah, so one of the other ones I had that was very good was Uchu Brewery in Latvia. They were very good at this particular style category as well. So yeah, gives you everything you expect. You've got that lovely big sweet and smooth backbone in there, but then yeah, you've also got that little bit of sweetness. Not really a green placebo effect in the actual flavour of this beer, which is kind of what you would expect as well. And then you've got that big, juicy, fruity character coming out of it as well. So yeah, all in all, flavour profile of this one I think is really, really nice. So yeah, we need to try a few more of these from Uchu. But let's break the flavour down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. Middle third of the palate then. Yeah, the backbone of the beer is that you can taste that lovely. You've got a little bit of that lovely kind of smooth, fresh, white bready bread crust in there. It's kind of like a hedgehog bread roll. As you move further forward, there's a little bit of woodiness in there, but not too much. Maybe a tiny little touch of cracker, but yeah, not overly much in there. And then above that, there's a little layer of like a mix of sweet white bread and brown bread. But above that, it's all about the oat and the kind of yogurty type flavour. So it's almost like in the middle of your palate, you can feel that big, thick, kind of creamy, yogurty layer just above the kind of bready notes there. So that's obviously going to be from the oats and stuff in this beer. The oats and wheat mostly, and probably the fruity pulp in this one's going to play a role with that as well. But yeah, the big creamy layer that's in there, it has it does have a slight vanilla type quality to it, but maybe not quite as sweet. So yeah, it's like a kind of vanilla yogurty character that's forming the backbone of the malty side of the beer there. Then you can feel a little bit more of a straight up oaty creaminess above that. So if you go down the middle line of your palate, you can feel the creamier side of the oats, and as you go further out toward the edges of your palate, there's just a little bit of a drier side to the oats for me. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together is really, really nice. And I would also add that in the middle, or above that kind of oaty layer, you're starting to get the sweeter side of the beer as well. And I think what I'm picking up as a sort of brown sugary, I don't know if I would say maple syrup, more like a kind of corn syrupy type flavour. There's a little bit of this kind of corn syrupy, biscuity can note out. This maybe like slightly caramel wafer as well. I think that's probably the agave syrup in this one. But yeah, in the dead centre of your palate, you've got that Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing coming out of the beer. And yeah, as you move further out from that, there's a little slight touch of biscuity note there, and then that sort of almost toasty, caramelly syrup sort of thing that is coming out of it as well. So yeah, all in all, the brown sugary character that you get out of this one, I think, is very, very nice, and that gets a big thumbs up from me too. So for me, I think that's everything we really need to say about that middle third of your palate, in honesty. So yeah, it's really, really nicely done, this beer. So let's go to the back third of your palate. As I've often said, the back third of your palate will give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but then further forward, you'll get the sweeter flavours. Further back on your palate, sorry, you'll get the more dry and bitter flavours, but that's not really applicable almost to these smoothie sours. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you've got that nice little bit of of bready character in there. So you can feel the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and then a wee bit of the more wheaty. You've got a little bit of that more wheaty, oaty creaminess at the very top of that there. But yeah, the backbone of the beer is a little bit more kind of the backbone of that beer is a little bit more kind of like a fresh white bready bread crust in there. On top of that, you've got a Jacob's cream cracker, and then yeah, sweet kind of brown bready character there. You can feel that's a little bit lighter, taller, more airy than in the middle third of your palate. And then for above that, you've got the more you've got that little bit more white bready character in there, which again is a little bit lighter, drier, and more airy. And just creeping over the top of that, you can feel a more dense, wheaty white bready character, which is quite smooth. And then it's all about the yeasty character, the beer above that. There's maybe a bit of the creamier oaty note just creeping over the top there as well. Maybe some slightly drier brown sugars. But yeah, the top of the back third of your palate is, pardon me, always about the yeasty side of the beer. So let's look at that yeasty character then. So yeah, the yeasty side of the beer for me, in the centre of it, you've maybe got like a more almost like porridgey, oaty sort of thing. Then further on the outside of that, you've got a mix of like sweet brown bread and white bread, and then a little touch of like a bread crusty note on the very edge of it. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together, I think is really nice. So definitely, yeah, back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together in this beer, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah, I don't think we really need to say anything more about the malty and yeasty side of this beer. But yeah, back third of your palate, the flavour's taller. Then as you move further forward, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit. So yeah, let's go on to the green placebo in this one. Like I said earlier, this beer, going by the flavour, it doesn't have hops in it. It's the fruitiness out of this one is all about is all because of the adjuncts and things and the agave syrup that's in here. But still, you do get a little touch of green placebo. So at the back corners, in the back corners of your palate, you do get a little bit of earthiness, very light and smooth earthiness, I would say. But then yeah, as you move further forward along the sides of your palate, there's a wee touch of woodiness there. And as you reach the kind of front corners of your tongue, it's got a little bit more of a kind of floral aromaticity to it as well, which I think is very nice. But yeah, around the front curve of the tongue, there's a little bit of a lighter, more grassy element to the beer. But yeah, the whole green component is quite oily, and you can feel the fruity characters of the beer just suppressing that quite a lot. You know, whenever you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, of course, it will suppress the green component from the hops. But yeah, let's look at the front third of your palate then and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. The brown bread in the base, the white bread on top of that, and the more oaty kind of character above it as well. But the base of that, back front third of your palate, you can feel there's a little bit more of a you do get a little bit of the bread crust. You get the smooth white bready character on top of that, or you get a bit of the sweet brown bread, the white bread, and then the more yogurty note, and you can definitely feel the oaty creaminess there. Then all the fruity adjuncts kind of sit on top of that. So yeah, and they come in, they've got quite a little bit of impact in there. You do have quite a wee bit of impact flavour with this beer, but that's not surprising considering what it is if you know this style. So yeah, for me, you can feel like in the back half of that front third of your palate on the fruity side of things, you can feel the juicy strawberry sort of being the backbone, and then as you come further forward, it's more the blueberry, a mix of the blueberry and blackberry being the backbone of the beer, and the juicy kind of the sort of sharper raspberry just sits on top of that. This one, I would say, for a berry sour, this one isn't overly tart actually in comparison to some of the European ones that I've had. This one's actually more kind of smooth and juicy almost. So yeah, all 4 of the fruits in here, the strawberries, the raspberries, the blackberries and the blueberries, they're all showing you they are more juicy qualities rather than being really sharp. Raspberry, I would say, is probably the one that's got the most potent kind of tartness to it. But of course, these things can vary a little bit depending on where your fruit is grown. In Japan, I'm pretty sure up in Hokkaido and Tohoku, they grow a lot of strawberries and raspberries and stuff like this. So maybe the Japanese ones just aren't as tart as the Scottish or European ones, for example. That's very possible. So yeah, all 4 of the fruits in this beer are really showing you the juiciness. But yeah, back half of that front third of your palate, it's more juicy strawberry underneath and the raspberry on top. And then as you move further forward, it's the blackcurrant underneath and the blueberry, the blackberry. More a mix actually. They're both kind of sitting there. It's hard to pick. Maybe the blueberry, the juicy blueberry underneath and the blackcurrant on top. But yeah, I like that about this one, and I do like how all of that pieces together. So yeah, all in all, I think it goes together really nicely, this one, in terms of its flavour profile. Certainly up there with the European smoothie sours that I've had. I've had 1 or 2 of these from the States as well, but I think the European ones just have that slightly better thickness to them, and this one has the European level thickness to it as well. Some very good Australian smoothie sours these days from the likes of One Drop as well. And this is easily on a par with that too. So thumbs up to Uchu Brewing then. Let's round off this review with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So yeah, mouthfeel wise for me, it's yeah, kind of midpoint of full bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth in this. It's got that big sort of creamy drinking yogurt type mouthfeel to it, which is what you'd expect. The IBU in this beer is obviously pretty much 0, 5 IBUs at the most. The malt base, a little bit dry underneath, very smooth in the middle and kind of creamy, and you've got a wee bit of sweetness on top of that. You do have a little bit of that, I don't know if that's acidity, but you've got a little bit of that kind of zippy, sharp flavour that you do expect to like yogurt as well. Then you've got those big, juicy, fruity characters coming out of the beer too. But yeah, all in all, this beer is not madly sour. It is more kind of smooth, creamy and very, very juicy. So if you like fruity yogurts, you are going to enjoy this one. But this has given me a very good first impression of Uchu Brewing smoothie sours, and it's a very good introduction to Japanese smoothie sours as well. So hopefully more breweries start to play around with these and see what they can do. But yeah, big thumbs up to Uchu Brewing once again for this, and I'm sure we'll return to them for another look at this style too. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This has been really interesting to try. I love returning to breweries that you know and trying different styles from them that they haven't really done before, that you haven't tried before. So yeah, this was the Geisha, a 4.5% smoothie sour with agave syrup, strawberry, raspberry, blueberry and blackberry in it this time. My very first Japanese smoothie sour. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Uchu Brewing as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. But until then, check out my social media, check out Uchu Brewing's social media, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Slàinte, skål, cheers and kanpai.